Hey, this is Paul Evans, your free online business coach. I'm setting the greatest lighting in the world, but I just got back from the gym here at the office complex. And I do like this view with the flags waving in the background. So if you can put up with my darkness and the lightness back behind me, hopefully everything will work out well. So we're on the third block when it comes to the monetization matrix. We're still talking about our message, and this time we're talking about connection. How do we really connect with our people? Now, there's things out there that people say like, how to get raving fans. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but do you know of any star out there or sports person who is actually trying to create raving fans? Or does their connection, does their ability, does their talent create the raving fans? I'm not saying they don't have fan bases, or that they don't motivate their fans and get them going, or that they don't instigate and charge them up. They do that, but I don't know how many of them are sitting around trying to figure out how do I get raving fans. Instead, they simply connect through the value that they bring, and that's what I want us to center on. Because what we want to do is move from untied, that's the shift from untied to united. That we want to unite together around this purpose, around this focus, so that we end up sealing. Now, remember when we talked about cause, that we had a message that we were thrilled to share. When we talked about content, it was a pill, it was the answer, it was the solution. And now with connect or connection, it's seal. We want to seal it in so that we're all together on the same path moving forward. You know, even with what we're doing right here, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of emails, and you can email me at freeonlinecoachingclub@gmail.com if you want to turn in a question. And a lot of people saying, hey, thank you for doing this, and things along those lines, which is fantastic and which I love. So, when we're thinking about that, we're connecting and moving forward in a very honest way with online business. That's a big part of this unity that we're forging here, right? And so we're sealing it up by saying, not only do I want to learn a high integrity approach, but I actually want to go forward and present that on the internet. So everybody so far that's asked questions, everybody who has spent their time watching these videos, everybody's been so above board, and that's thrilling to me. So how do we actually connect? We want to make sure that we're going to serve over sell, serving over selling, so that we're thinking a lot more about the outcome for that particular individual or for that group of people than thinking, how do I make a sale, how do I make a sale, how do I make a sale. We can get so wrapped up into our copy, so wrapped up into the headline, so wrapped up into all the mechanics and all the technology that sometimes we forget, hey, I'm just supposed to be serving. I'm supposed to be bringing a solution to the problem that this particular individual or group has. I want to serve them. And part of that service is protection. We're going to talk about that in one of the questions here in a minute. But we're out there trying to make sure they buy from us because we believe it's the best place to buy from. It's the best person to buy from. It's the best company to buy from. So we're going to serve over sell. We're going to listen over telling. Sometimes we get wrapped up in thinking about what we want them to know. I can tell you just from being out in the world, and those of you who are salespeople in the world, or you own companies, when you're talking about it, people want you to talk about them. They don't want you to talk about you. They don't want to simply hear you tell them all about yourself. They want you to listen and then produce. I'm trying to do that, even though, on a video, it's all me, right? There's not any conversation. You're not getting to come back on me or anything, but I'm listening to your questions. I'm listening to what you're writing, and then I'm coming out with the information. I'm not simply over here telling you what I think you need to do. That could be a piece of it, but I'm really trying to make sure that I'm telling based on what I heard rather than just trying to go forward and pour it all on you and force you down a certain pathway, right? And then teaching over preaching. A preacher, and I'm not against that. We're going to have a ministry question here in a minute. And I spent about 30 years in ministry and still do a lot of ministry around the world right now. But preaching is about these answers. Here's the answer. Here's what you're supposed to do. Here's where you need to be straightened out. Whereas teaching is, let's come alongside each other. Let's help each other. Let me help guide you down this certain path that you're wanting to go. Let me help educate you. Not that I've got every single answer out there, but I know what I've studied. And I know what my degree is in. And I want to share that with you so that you become better. Sometimes it's as simple as teaching 2 plus 2. Other times it's more like physics. But there's a big difference in someone who teaches and someone who preaches. So let's make sure that we're teachers. So if we're going to connect, we're going to serve, we're going to listen, and we're going to teach. And it doesn't matter if you end up doing affiliate products, if you end up doing a product yourself or being a coach and advising people. It really comes down to serving them, to listening, and then teaching, directing them in the right path. So that's how we really connect with people. Now, there's a lot of deeper things that we could get into, a lot of the psychology. We'll probably do some of that in the future. I've got some trainings on some deep psychological aspects of really connecting with people, and we'll release those at some point that'll be helpful as well. But initially, it's a lot more about just recognizing the client, the customer, and making sure we're serving them. All right, the questions for this episode. Tracy asked a question, and I forgot my iPad, so I don't have it with me right now to be able to read the full question out, but I've got synopsis of each one. And that is that she wants to know what's the best broadcast mechanism for, or presenter mechanism for, like a summit where people can come and attend live, and then they can also get the replay on demand. You know, there's a lot of different options out there, Tracy, when you're talking about making it inexpensive and making it easy to use. I think Zoom is incredible. For about $20 a month, you can have multiple speakers on there, and certainly people can come and attend, and they've got some higher levels as well. You could actually host it on YouTube, do YouTube Live. You could do Facebook Live. I like YouTube from the standpoint of it just stays on your channel. And there's nothing wrong with you setting up a channel just for that summit, and that you end up with 10, 12 presenters. That ends up being the content. I'd probably then take it and make a podcast out of it as well. But it's certainly fine to do that through their platform, record live, and then it's automatically there for the replay as well. So that's really the easiest and the cheapest. If you want to go a little bit more professional, I'd probably use Zoom, and I think that's at zoom.us. Second question is from Trevor. All right, I went and got my iPad, so that way I can actually read this question. I knew we were going to go off base pretty quick. So he says he started online back in 1996, making an affiliate commission with Corey Rudel. Some of you guys remember him. In 97, he did really well for many years, and then he took his eye off the online business, ran an offline not-for-profit, and the online dwindled. And you know, I've had the same thing happen as well. He says, getting back to concentrating on my online business after running offline for 10 years or so, I found it much harder to make progress than 96. And after 23 years, I can relate to feeling numb. I seem to have lost my mojo. My get up and go seems to have got up and gone, as they say. I guess there's so many more people online now, all in the I am space, which is where I am. It's one reason that for it being so much more difficult now than it was. You said that you had experienced the same thing in the past, so my question is, how did you rekindle your spark? My business plan currently includes providing training through a membership site, some coaching, which I want to do more of, and publishing books like my Going Solo on Amazon. Such a wonderful gesture that you're doing here. I'm blessed to join you on this journey, Trevor. Hey, Trevor, that's a great question, because, you know, it is different now. I mean, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was a lot easier. And there are a lot of people in it. And not to offend a lot of people in it, there's a lot of people in it not doing it very successfully. And there's a lot of people in it who are doing it as a hobby and are not creating their own voice. They've certainly flooded the online market. And that's probably 80%. Then there's about 10% who are really doing it well and doing it accurately and being very helpful. And then there's about 10% that are really just scam artists. I mean, all they're trying to do is to get somebody to pay something, and they're going to make their money and they're going to move on. They're going to use as many people as possible. So that's kind of the breakdown of what I'm seeing in the marketplace. Now, the key to that is this, I feel like, is that you want to separate yourself from the crowd. And there's three, I'm not saying easy ways to do it, but it's so different than what everybody else is doing. Number one is focus. That you're not simply in the I am space. I mean, that's a good space, but what sector of the I am space? You could go with people if you wanted to. And if I decided, hey, I'm going to be in the I am space for people between the ages of 50 and 65, and I'm going to be laser focused on that, suddenly I've separated myself from the crowd, because there's a lot of youngsters out there trying to do something, and there's a lot of us oldsters out there. And I might be a voice that could easily separate myself from the crowd simply because of age. You've got all these years of experience online. I would look at those years and really target, what were you best at? Was it affiliate marketing, or was it just affiliate marketing, or was it traffic? And so dial it in to those one or two things that you feel like you bring that special ability to, and just really dial it in, laser focused. Secondly is fire. So we talk about rekindling. I think that we rekindle when we are focused. I think that that helps us feel like, yes, I'm doing exactly what I need to do. But the fire needs to come from, you know exactly how you help people. You are dialed in, not only on your focus, but on your fire. It's like, this is what I bring. So let me go to my public speaking market for just a second. And there's a ton of great speaker coaches out there. And there's a ton of speaker coaches that are very much performance based, that you're going to go out there and you're going to hit your marks, etc. I have two areas of speaking that I feel like I excel in and can separate myself from the crowd. Number one is conversational presentations, that the person's going to sound the same on stage, off stage. You know, some guys get up there and start speaking and you're like, whose voice is that? And what are those mannerisms? He doesn't act like that in public at all. But instead, really teaching them how to have a conversation with the crowd. The other thing that I feel like I do extremely well is that if I was to listen to a person for about 30 minutes, if they said, hey, I talk on X subject, and I just asked them a series of questions, in 30 minutes, I'm going to have their entire keynote designed. And from that keynote that was designed in 30 minutes, because I'm going to be listening for patterns, I'm going to end up alliterating the whole thing. Probably at the end of 30 minutes, I'm going to have a 5-point outline. I'm going to break that into a 5-week or 6-week course that they could actually go out and sell. And then I'm going to have some questions that they could ask if somebody wanted to be coached through that scenario as well. And so instead of me just going, hey, I'm a public speaker coach, I can dial it in and say I'm a conversational speaker coach. And I'm also a keynote creator. I'm your keynote consultant is what I am. I'm going to listen to you for 30 minutes. I'm going to ask you some specific questions. At the end of 30 minutes, I'm going to hand you a 5-point keynote that you can take and do anywhere that you want to. And then if you'd like, I'll show you how to use it and adjust it for different audiences, right? So you see that I could get fired up because I'm doing something that I don't see a lot of other people do. And I feel like I do that particular thing pretty well. So I would make that your fire. That's how you get rekindled, is you don't get out there and enter the crowd. You get out there and say, hey, I see the crowd, but here's who I need to work with. This is my focus. And here's the thing that I deliver that nobody else really can or does. And then finally, you want to be fierce. And by fierce, I mean, you're going to protect your people. You're going to be an advocate for them. You're going to stand up for them. If you're in the IM space and you see a bunch of folks getting cheated, especially around the area of your fire and focus, and you want to get out there and defend it. You want to get out there and you don't necessarily call names, but you say, I'm just not sure that there are more than 3 people doing this with integrity. Or if one of your clients gets upset because they bought a product that didn't pan out, then you defend them. You're their advocate. And I think that gets us rekindled as well, because now it's not simply I'm out there trying to sell, I'm also defending my clients. I'm defending not just my territory, I'm defending my people. And so that allows you to get fierce. Final question is from John. And he asks this. He says, I'm an ordained pastor and I love doing business. I assist another pastor in that I'm not full-time ministry. My question is, how did you combine business and ministry? What's wrong with making money to help others? As a pastor or minister, you're likely familiar with Job's friends, their critics over what happened to him in his life and probably what's happened to you in your life. He says, my wife and I are praying to God for his guidance. Did you have a similar experience in your beginning in ministry? What would you advise a brother? So some of you guys know that I ran a ministry site probably for about 10 years. It's still up, but we're not working it like we used to. It got fairly large. People were paying $10 a month, and they would get a lesson every week with PowerPoint, class handout, things along those lines. And so as John's asking, how do you do that without people feeling like, man, you're trying to make money off of God, you're trying to make money off of ministry? A couple of ways. Number one, it really depends on your area. And so John is not from the States, and his area, it can be very difficult culturally to do that. In the US, we're capitalists. We feel like you can make money just about anywhere. The way that it worked out for us, a couple of interesting things. First of all, is that we're providing a service. We're saving them time and energy so that those ministers could spend time with their people instead of having to do all the planning. We'd give them a start. They would interject their own ideas and concepts, but they didn't have to go in blind every week. And so that helped out a lot. So it was a real service. You know, we weren't charging a crazy amount, $10 a month. It wasn't like we were gouging them. And then secondly, we tried to do an affiliate program so that we wanted our members to end up telling other people about it. Now that's what offended them. They did not mind paying for the resources. They did mind being asked to get paid to make the recommendation. So they were like, no, and we'll tell other people for free. And they were really upset that we were willing to pay them to send us a member. So it ended up being great because we got a ton of referrals from people who did not want to be paid. So, you know, John, the way that you think about that is that you are providing a service. As long as it's very specific what you're doing, you're providing a service. There's plenty of ministers who are counselors who get paid. There's plenty of ministers here in the US who sell their Sunday lessons and put them in a repackaged format so that other preachers can go out and preach the same material. So we're kind of used to that format here in the US, and so it may have to be that type of mindset that you bring to your people so that they understand there is a cost associated. I also know that when you're dealing with folks that have a little bit more affluency, it's easier to do it. If your particular group that you're after has a really hard time financially, it's always going to be difficult to get them to pay. Anyway, that's just a huge overview. There were some critics, John, but not many at all. But yes, I totally understand what you're talking about. Job and his friends, because they were always on Job telling him what he did wrong. And we know how that ended. All right, guys, thank you for coming out for another episode. You can email me at freeonlinecoachingclub@gmail.com if you got any questions. Until next time, as always, success is not an accident. Be blessed.